in the way of stories, acknowledging that every story is our story. Perhaps we can say that we're exploring the nature of divine psychology, which is to say, we're exploring our own nature. In a tiny village at the foot of the Ural Mountains in Russia, there was a very small community of Jewish people, but they had no rabbi, they had no synagogue. But one day a messenger came to advise the people that a very well-known rabbi was coming to visit their community. And so all the townspeople were agog with excitement, each of them with questions in their own way, questions about life, questions about philosophy, questions about spirituality. And when the rabbi arrived and all the people had gathered in the town center, the rabbi stood, but without saying a word. He began to hum. And as he hummed, the people began to join in. And then he began to measure his steps around the town square, still humming. And the people followed. And then he began to dance. He began to whirl. And the people whirled with him. And soon everyone was transported. Everyone was united, not only in the whirl, in the dance, in the measured steps, in the humming, but something much more profound. And after some long while, the dancing, the whirling, the humming ceased. The only words that the rabbi spoke during his visit were, "I trust that I have answered your questions." The other day, a story was told about one of those souls who are purported to be the jokers, the mystical jokers of the storytelling world, the Moulin Rudens, the Birbals, the Latif, the thieves. But to continue with the story of the one who became Birbal, the great advisor to King Akbar, the story was told how he met the king. And the king gave him his ring and said, "When you are grown, come to visit me." And so the story goes on, how when that one who was called Ramishdas set out to the capital of his great land, taking with him the ring that had been given to him by the king. But when he arrived at the doorsteps of King Akbar's palace, there was a burly guard standing, blocking his way. And the burly guard looked Ramesh Das up and down, seeing this scruffy young man, obviously a hick from the villagers. And the guard began to taunt him. "What are you doing here? Have you got an invitation, a personal invitation from the king? Well, show it to me." But Ramesh Das was not perturbed by this, but he did take out the ring that had been given to him by King Akbar, and he showed it to the guard. Well, there was no doubting the authenticity of this ring, so the guard was duly impressed, but he was not about to back down from his position. And he said, "All right, I will let you in to see the king, but you must promise me to give me half of whatever the king gives you as bounty." So Ramesh Das duly agreed to this, and the guard escorted him in to the presence of King Akbar. So when it came for the turn of Ramesh Das to come before King Akbar, and Ramesh Das gave him the ring that he had been given, and of course the king, being one who had a very good memory, remembered well the moment that they had met. And he was asking Ramesh Das, "Well, now you are here, what bounty would you like to receive?" And Ramesh Das in reply said, "I would like to have 100 lashes." Well, King Akbar was very taken aback by this, and then Ramesh Das, who was about to bare his back to be given these lashes, said, "Oh, could you wait, please, because I would like to ask you, would you please give half of what I am about to receive to the guard, because I promised him that I would share half of what I receive from you as my bounty." Well, of course, King Akbar was very, very angry. He said, "This is what my guards do, bribing those who come so that they can enter into my presence. Call a guard." So the guard was, of course, called into King Akbar's presence, but instead of receiving half of what Ramesh Das was to receive, the king ordered that the guard should have the full bounty of that which Ramesh Das asked for. So he was taken away and given 100 lashes. But of course, in that moment, King Akbar realized that he had someone standing before him, this young man who was not only perceptive, but brave and fearless in being able to stand up for what was truth, perhaps. Perhaps we might give it another name. But this is the story about how the young boy from the countryside, simple fellow, met the king and became his trusted companion and advisor. Recognizing all stories as our story. And now exploring the nature of divine psychology. Where do these stories fit as we not only acknowledge all stories as our story, but the contents of these stories affirming, confirming, revealing to us, seeking acceptance and acknowledgement of the qualities that they contain. Where do these simple stories fit into our pantheon? The rabbi, silent, and yet humming, dancing, whirling, answering all questions without a word. And Ramesh does, the young country bumpkin, who became the confidant and advisor to a king. Where do these stories fit? And dare you acknowledge them, accept them, affirm them, live them? Is this our challenge as we explore divine psychology?